No.
Beat Runner. Main menu. Stage select. Tutorial.
If you're hearing this, this means that you have selected Developer Commentary Mode on the title screen. If you haven't selected Developer Commentary Mode, then I've screwed up somewhere and I need to fix that. You should only really play Developer Commentary Mode after you've completed the game itself. The reason for this is because I will spoil pretty much everything that happens later on, and I'd rather you see that for yourself first. At any time, pressing the triangle button will mute my voice, but keep the subtitles on, so that way you can still have the commentary if you don't like my voice. This commentary track will run throughout the entire time you play the stream. It won't pause and it won't stop. There's two reasons why I decided to do this developer commentary mode. The first one was because I've noticed the stream is getting pretty popular. It has about 500 plays right now and about 140 thumbs up. The other reason why I am doing this mode is because I always have loved developer commentary modes in games. I've always found game development to be a fascinating process, and I love hearing behind-the-scenes stuff. So I made this mode so other people like me might get insight into how I made this if they want to make their own spin on it or something. The concept for this dream kind of came into existence with Media Molecule making the One Button Community Jam in July 2020. I felt that this jam was the perfect opportunity to finally create a dream that I've been planning on making ever since I bought the game. The original concept was a dream where you would get kidnapped by a bunch of robots, and they would put you through a series of increasingly dumb challenges where you would have to, answer questions to. And that's actually how this dream started. I was actually drafting up the idea for the cutscene, and then I kind of realized everything I wanted to do would just not be possible to do in a jam. There's not enough time. Well, that, and I actually kind of realized I'm terrible at animating, so that idea went in the trash bin pretty quickly. And we now have this simple experience with not many cutscenes or art direction or anything like that. So when I actually started this up, I made it, a lot more funny. It was just jokes all the way throughout, but then I realized I could tell a more interesting story with some more serious bits, so I decided to go with that near the back half of the game. That's why there is such a weird tonal shift, between the second half and the first half of the game. It's honestly because I couldn't really decide which direction I wanted to go at the beginning, so the consequences of that still remain to this day. The only thing that didn't really change that much throughout the initial conception of this idea and the final product is the room design itself. The room design was always this, cartoony, discombobulated mess of, different furniture that doesn't quite make sense in a cohesive whole. Again, two reasons for this. The first reason, I can't sculpt to save my life, and the second reason is because I wanted the aliens to just kind of have a cursory idea of, how humans live, so this room is how they think human houses look, pretty much. Inside the room, there are some book titles on the bookshelf that have a little bit of hinting toward the true nature of the aliens and what they're researching, and there's an open book that has some explicit lore if you want to delve into that. I didn't really put much effort into the lore because I felt the main story itself and the ending served pretty well as lore, so the stuff that you find in the room isn't particularly deep, but it's still there, and it hints toward the ending if you pay attention. The concept of the aliens themselves, the collective, is this digital hive mind race where they go around the galaxy assimilating species to improve their computing power. In the far, far past, the collective uploaded their entire species into this giant computer called a Matryoshka brain, which essentially powers their entire hive mind and lets them travel the universe. The overall ideals of the hive mind are influenced by the species they assimilate, which is why the assimilation ending of this game ends with the collective wiping out all life in the galaxy, because humans are warlike. There is also a more friendly race of aliens, the ones that contact you near the end of the game, where all the lights go out and they say hello on the monitor. This friendly alien that contacts you, he's part of the Outer Empires, a group that is opposed to the collective. These friendly aliens are kind of vague in their writing because I wanted this story to focus on you and the collective and less about these aliens. They do exist, but they're not overall important to the main story. But that's enough about backstory. I want to talk about how the choice system in the game works and how it determines the ending that you get, as well as all alternative dialogue. So, for a breakdown here, there are 7 different endings. There are 8 different dialogues for how you answer the first 3 questions, and there are 4 different dialogues for how you answer questions 4 and 5. To determine the ending of the game, there is something called the favor system, which is how you stand in relation to the collective. So if you answer a question in a way that they like, then you will gain 1 point of favor. And if you answer a question in a way that they don't like, you don't gain any favor. This is invisible to the player, you'll never see it unless you look at the logic. So the favor system is literally just a counter that goes up to 6, and when it's time for the ending to happen, the game will call up the current value of that counter and then give you the corresponding ending. So, for example, a favor of 6 gets you the assimilation ending, where the entire galaxy is assimilated, and getting a favor of 0 gives you the destruction ending, where you have the old grandfather alien on the porch. I consider the quote-unquote true ending to be favor 3, where you're dropped in Times Square and then on your deathbed you remember what the alien said about stopping human testing. Of course, every other ending is perfectly valid. I'm not going to say that you got the wrong ending if you didn't get favor 3. It's just, if I had to only have one ending in this game, it would probably be favor 3. So the endings were actually the most simple part of the game to write. The more interesting part is how the game handles the midway point, where you have to take a break and then it calls you back and then tells you what kind of a person you are. How it works is that every answer to the first 3 questions of the game is wired up to a counter that will activate whenever you select that answer. So then once you actually step away from the computer and then come back after pressing the button, it will compare the choices that you've made, and then it will give you the corresponding dialogue, of which there are 8 different ones. You actually have to take a break there, not because I wanted to be funny, it was because I actually couldn't find a way to get the dialogue working without leaving the computer. So I wrote in that break section as a bit of a cheeky workaround. So for questions 4 and 5, it will call you out if you're being contradictory in your answers. This works the exact same way as the previous example, but it's a little more simple. It is just a bunch of counters that get compared and then gives you the corresponding dialogue. Nothing fancy. And that is the extent of how narrative choices work in this game. It's a bit complicated, but also at the same time it's rather simple to create. Like, it's something that anyone would be able to do with just a little bit of practice. The rest of the logic in this dream is pretty simple overall. It's just typical stuff like, oh, when the lights cut out, I just teleport you outside the room and you're in this black void, then you come back after a few seconds. Simple stuff. There's also a very, very rudimentary VR mode in here as well if you have a PSVR headset. It doesn't work with the Move controllers because I couldn't figure out how to get them work, and honestly the moves wouldn't add much to this experience anyway, so I didn't feel it was necessary. And with that, I have pretty much wrapped up how the development went for this game. There's not really much else to talk about. If you made it this far, then, congratulations. I really appreciate that you found this game interesting enough to want to look at the development process of it. It really does mean a lot to me if you've sat through this whole thing to the end. If you become particularly inspired by this stream and you create something that's kind of similar to it, then let me know. I would love to actually check out what you make, and it would mean the world to me to know that you've been inspired by this dumb little alien game that I've made. Thank you so much for listening.